In some of the most violent and notorious prisons in America, full of criminals, the pedophile is reviled among all. Human trafficking is a very lucrative business for criminal enterprises across the globe. People who choose to go pedophile hunting can find themselves in a dangerous world. The demand for children for these pedophiles is sadly a very real and significant problem. Many convicted pedophiles find themselves at the business end of a shiv, or routine beatings and assaults of various natures. Every society has subcultures or criminal elements that defy the morals and standards of the greater society. In America, adults seeking to conduct sexual acts upon children are considered the lowest of the low. Unfortunately, pedophilia has long been around in America and different parts of the world. Certain cultures around the globe, such as in Africa, have practices that make young children the property of local chieftains for sexual purposes. The child sex trafficking trade runs rampant in other countries like Mexico, Colombia, Thailand, and Russia. While under deployment and tasked with winning hearts and minds, U.S. forces have sometimes found themselves at odds with supposed allies who partook in sexual assaults against minors of both genders. Sadly, in America, there have been many sexual predators who cloak themselves in positions of trust and power. Numerous investigations have uncovered no single mold for pedophiles. They come from all backgrounds, socioeconomic groups, races, religions, and ages. The evening news highlights the scandals of teachers sleeping with their underage students, coaches with their athletes, and scoutmasters with their scouts. Investigative and independent news programs began looking deeper into the issue as incidents of adults exploiting minors started to bombard the American consciousness, while others have even pretended the ongoing crisis doesn't exist, such as USA Today and The Atlantic. For example, if a 45-year-old named Martin has a bunch of 10 to 14-year-olds as friends on an online gaming app catering to kids, this may be a big red flag, and perhaps someone will notice and alert authorities. Next, a hypothetical profile may appear on this chat room or another platform associated with the online game. Martin may feel compelled to start an online correspondence because the cute and innocent profile picture draws him in. Mild banter may ensue, followed by the exchange of innocent pictures and more racy pictures, ultimately leading to a phone call between Martin and the target of his online affections. This target will legitimately sound like a curious and trusting minor on the phone, and Martin's intended victim will mention that her parents will be away the following week. Martin will then make the travel plans to meet for sex with whom he believes to be an underage female. Upon arrival at his supposed victim's home, however, Martin is met by police officers in raid jackets and a cold pair of handcuffs. Authorities pat themselves on the back in the knowledge that a pedophile has been taken off the streets, but just as with the drug war, all involved know that Martin is only one of millions of others looking to prey upon young children. The sad fact is that sexual predators targeting children are but one slice of a much larger criminal pie. Some people trade child pornography, pictures, videos, and literature with others across the globe. However, this segment does not necessarily include the sick individuals who actually take the photos and videos and engage with the children. For every predator caught in a sting, countless others are consuming child porn. Criminals producing child porn, numerous web admins hosting it, and an almost endless number of websites and forums on the dark web for distribution purposes. Regional and global sex traffickers also know that there is a market for people wanting sex with children, and they are all too willing to supply them to pedophiles. Many of these minors are coaxed into running away from home, some are abducted, or in many cases these underage victims are smuggled into America. The movie Taken wasn't too far off the mark in terms of exposing that there are global sex trafficking rings. As it also happens, there are a number of people ready to stop them. Unlike the war on drugs, hunting pedophiles is an endeavor that has multiple players. Mostly government-funded nonprofits to private sector vigilante groups, each with various approaches to stopping predators. The HERO, otherwise known as Human Exploitation Rescue Operative Child Rescue Corps, is a U.S. government-backed program developed by the National Association to Protect Children in partnership with Homeland Security Investigations and the U.S. Special Operates in months of field training. Then they are given a new mission to hunt down pedophiles and online predators. When necessary, arrests are made with cooperating law enforcement agencies across the globe. Bruce Ladbu founded the Children's Rescue Initiative, CRI. They rescue, return, and restore children and adults caught in this horrible trade. To date, 2,300 victims have been rescued by the organization. Deliver Fund, founded and managed by former special operator and CIA special agent Nick McKinley, applies numerous investigative and tactical targeting techniques that McKinley learned in the service of his government and focuses those capabilities on identifying and stopping child sex traffickers. Deliver Fund equips law enforcement with training and software to prevent sex trafficking operations. The Anti-Human Trafficking Intelligence Initiative, ATII, founded by Aaron Collar, uses open source intelligence, web intelligence, and advanced forensic cyber investigative techniques to follow the money, cell phone pings, online images, and other digital breadcrumbs associated with human and child sex trafficking. ATII, like some of the other organizations mentioned above, alerts law enforcement to suspicious online behavior. Often banks, websites, online message boards, airlines, and rideshare companies are alerted by firms like ATII. Let's take a deep dive into the statistics. America is home to more than 42 million victims of child sexual assault. Child sex abuse and sex offenses in general don't get reported to the relevant authorities. Adult retrospective studies from the Children's Assessment Center, however, indicate that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men suffered sexual abuse before turning 18, which translates into more than 42 million adult victims of child sexual abuse. To add another layer of protection, you can perform criminal record checks on people's search sites for anyone who has contact with your children. Alternatively, you can search the sex offender registry for child sex offenders and other criminals who might live in proximity to your family or near the schools your children attend. Studies show 1.6% of all children between 12 and 17 have been sexually abused. According to the BJS, children who experience this type of abuse are known to develop low self-esteem, depression, a general feeling of worthlessness, and a mistrust of adults. Child molester statistics show that they can become withdrawn and even suicidal if left untreated, and the trauma can affect them long into their adult life. Boys who are sexually abused are 5 times more likely to cause teen pregnancy. The National Center for Victims of Crimes found that they are also 3 times as likely to have multiple sexual partners and twice as likely to have unprotected sex than their counterparts. Child sex abuse isn't limited to contact, and there are other examples of non-contact abuse such as child pornography and voyeurism. Between 80% and 90% of all pedophiles are male. Statistics on child predators show a massive gulf between the number of male and female perpetrators. Around 40% of offenders of children under the age of 12 are about the same age or adolescent. Female pedophiles usually have a different set of motivating factors behind their abuse, and though they seem to target younger victims, they tend to be less concerned with their gender. More specific demographics of pedophiles are challenging to discern, giving many of them appear as upstanding citizens and take great measures to avoid suspicion. About 30% of all sexual abuse victims are assaulted by family members. Child molester statistics from the darkness to light show that almost a third of all sexually abused children are victims of their own family members. For children under the age of 6, 50% of the abusers are someone in the family. For victims aged 12 to 17, that percentage drops to 23%. Stats also point to no tangible link between homosexuality and pedophilia despite some assertions. Girls are 2 to 3 times more likely to be molested than boys. In a review by Walden University of 55 studies of the last 50 years to gain a deeper understanding of child molestation statistics, researchers found that 25% of girls were victims compared to 8% of boys. The report also found the rate of abuse in boys to be significantly higher than that exhibited in the CSA research, citing the stigma attached to being a victim of molestation, underreporting of incidents, and unsubstantiated claims for the discrepancies in this data. These issues are just as common for pedophilia in the USA. With more education and more accurate information, these abuses can be prevented not only in America, but also across the globe. Children with disabilities are 2.9 times more susceptible to sexual assault. Child predator statistics clearly show a trend towards the sexual abuse of disabled children. After a thorough meta-analysis of studies pertaining to the victimization of children with physical or mental disabilities by the Vera Institute of Justice, researchers concluded that they are almost 3 times more likely to be sexually abused. In fact, children with mental and intellectual shortcomings are as much as 4.6 times more likely to be sexually abused than their peers with no disabilities. Child sex offenders are 4 times more likely to be rearrested for a new sex crime. According to Stop Child Predators, pedophilia statistics surrounding recidivism vary because of differing definitions, but child molesters typically have higher recidivism rates. Of the released child sex offenders who commit a new sex crime, as many as 40% did so in the first year following their release, and the majority of their victims were children aged 13 or younger. Approximately 500,000 child predators are online every day. Children between the ages of 12 and 15 are the groups most targeted by online predators. The FBI has found that they account for over 50% of the victims. Online predator statistics show that 89% of these interactions take place on the internet in chat rooms and private messaging. While most pedophiles make efforts to mask their deviant behavior and present themselves as upstanding citizens, it's worth running social media background checks on potential applicants if you're an employer based in a child safety zone or want to check how applicants behave in their private lives. Social media profiles can give you a more in-depth look into someone's personality, values, and preferences. As of February 2023, there are over 786,000 people on the U.S. Sex Offender Registry. This figure marks a 3% year-over-year increase and is the highest recorded since 2019. It also translates into 237 sex offenders per 100,000 residents. Here's a reality check. Estimating how many people are pedophiles is fraught with challenges, although research indicates that the prevalence of pedophilic tendencies in the general population may range from 1% to 5%. With a population of 340.1 million, that means there are an estimated 3.4 to 17 million pedophiles in the United States alone. To put this into even more context, the American prison population is only 1.8 million, meaning that there are at the very least twice as many child predators in this nation as all other convicted criminals combined. Considering the small budgets for government and or private organizations whose sole purpose is to catch these kinds of people, the reality can be extremely daunting. Even with increased public spending and donations, there just simply isn't enough law enforcement to capture every single last one of these sickos. Hell, there probably isn't even enough space to keep them all locked away from the general public. Enter the gray and murky side of pedophile hunting business. With the success of gotcha-style shows, online vigilantes have emerged who seek to catch predators similarly. In many cases, natural predators have been exposed, including a chief of police caught on video in the act and many other high-profile figures. While hundreds of hunters have attempted to gain popularity using the forces of social media to fund and grow their adventures, only a much smaller list has survived the gauntlet of public scrutiny, legal challenges, and censorship. If you'd like to see this list, please head to my article in the description down below. While the support for independent child predator hunting groups has grown across the nation, these groups are clearly not enough to put a stop to the epidemic that is child sex trafficking, nor are the articles I write on my website or the videos I post on social media. To stop nearly 20 million of the most dangerous criminals throughout the country, it is going to take every single last one of us to put in some effort, and we're going to need a lot more modern-day heroes like these folks to help. The current and past presidential administrations are not on our side either, as clearly shown in recent years. I truly believe it is possible. We may fight about culture, race, money, class, bathrooms, and which sport teams are the best, but one thing the vast majority of Americans can agree on is that we must protect the children.